Hey there and welcome back to another Pixar video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the OG franchise Toy Story, and more specifically, probably the most important and iconic character within that franchise and maybe within the entirety of Pixar's body of works, the world's favourite cowboy, Sheriff Woody. Now Woody's perhaps one of Toy Story's most richly developed characters. When we first meet him during the events of the first film, he's the top dog of the toy box. What he says goes. He gets to sleep on the bed with Andy, he's the favourite toy, he's the one that all the other toys look to as their leader and their protector. And then Buzz joins the family and suddenly Woody's on the outs. He has to grow to accept Buzz and to earn his own redemption. And then he remains the character that gets the most development in the second film as well, where he has to decide what he wants out of his life. Should he go with the other members of Woody's roundup and become a collectible in a museum? Should he become an exhibit? Or should he remain Andy's toy and stay with the child who loves him and cherishes him? And he takes a risk, a chance that one day that Andy's going to outgrow him and discard him, but he still chooses to remain with him all the same. And again, the third one is once again about Woody accepting that it's time to move on and that he doesn't have to stay with Andy forever, that they can find a new lease on life as a toy to a younger child who love and cherish them just the same. And then Toy Story 4. And yeah, I don't really like Toy Story 4. It's not terrible, but it just isn't for me, I think. For me, it kind of wiped out the ending of Toy Story 3 a little too soon. Like, I feel like Woody would probably regret not going to college with Andy at this stage. But regardless, he gets the most screen time and development in that film as well. And this is his swan song. So it's clear that he's the biggest and the most developed character throughout the franchise. But we know next to nothing about his past whatsoever. And don't get me wrong, that's also the case with a lot of the other toys. But for the most part, you can assume that they were bought for Andy by his mum and I guess his absent or potentially dead dad. And since we never really hear about the wider lore of their toys, or they're just kind of generic, they don't really matter that much. But for Woody, we know that he's an old family toy, and then in Toy Story 2, we learn he has this huge and immense backstory that plays into his character. That he is Sheriff Woody, the rootinest, tootinest cowboy in the Wild West. He has a whole storyline for his line of toys. And you know, I never really thought about it beyond that. That was where my thoughts on all of that ended for a fair amount of time. Until recently, I went to see the film Lightyear and I thought, oh, so this is the backstory that the Buzz toy in Toy Story 1 thinks is real. So main Buzz and then alternate Buzz from Toy Story 2 have sort of got this storyline embedded in their mind, or at least some version of the story. They have a backstory for their character. And for a significant amount of time, both of them believe they're actually the real and legitimate Buzz Lightyear and deny that they're toys whatsoever, even though they freeze when in the presence of humans. So obviously on some level, they have that awareness even if it's just an innate response. And this in turn kind of got me wondering about our friend the Sheriff. He isn't all that different from Buzz Lightyear in that regard, is he? He's also a toy with a bit of a backstory, a history, lore that surrounds his character. But yet he's utterly incapable of recognizing any part of it. He has no awareness of Woody's roundup or the story that surrounds it, and seems utterly shocked by it during the events of Toy Story 2. And on top of that, during the events of Toy Story 1, he seems so shocked and appalled that Buzz actually thinks he's legitimately Buzz Lightyear, and that he thinks he's a real-life space ranger, complete with lasers and the ability to fly. It's a big source of the original tension between the two characters. And so, this kind of made me ponder the question, why the hell doesn't Woody know his own backstory? Why is he so shocked about the life that he's lived? How could he not recognize the Woody's Roundup gang of Bullseye, Jesse, and Stinky Pete if both versions of Buzz were able to instantly recognize the robotic Emperor Zurg? For Buzz, it seems built into him that he was able to innately connect to his fictional backstory, letting him draw on fake memories as well as having a pre-built personality. But it's clear that Woody doesn't have this problem, because if he did, if he originally thought he wasn't a toy, wouldn't he have been able to sympathize with Buzz knowing that he once thought he was a legit cowboy when he got brought home the first time? But his reaction to Buzz suggests he's never consciously thought that way, and his lack of memory of any sort of extended lore counterparts like Jesse suggests he doesn't have any sort of toy memory. So what's going on here? And yeah, I can realize that this question is easily summed up with, who gives a shit? Or, you're thinking too hard about this, nerd, or simply the creators hadn't thought about it yet. Or really ever at all. But obviously, those are answers that won't allow me to sleep at night. This is one of those haunting questions that I'll forever have to ask myself, so I decided to make this video for myself more than anybody else, to get it all out there so I can go back to forgetting about it completely. And so now, there really isn't anything else for it, but to work through some possible reasons as to why Woody has no cowboy conditioning or memories of his backstory. Now, I've seen a little bit of discussion about this kind of stuff before, but that's all there is, a little bit of discussion. So I've pulled together what I could and added a few ideas of my own. And the first of these ideas is that over time, as they're owned and played with by children, their memories of being a toy quickly become all that matters to them, and thus they slowly but surely forget any sort of life they had before that. So, even if they have a backstory, like Woody clearly does, the years of being played with slowly wipes those out. Now for Buzz, that clearly isn't the case. By the time of Toy Story 3 and 4, he really isn't that old, only like 10 years or so. But we know that by the time of Toy Story 2, Woody is already described as an old family toy, so he was probably obtained during the 50s when the show was on TV and the toys were being actively sold, so he's like 40 years old. And so realistically, Woody's probably had decades of family fun which have overridden all his memories of his fake past. And since he has no other members of the cast there to remind him of who and what he is, by the time of Toy Story 2, 40 years or so later, he has no idea who Jessie, Bullseye or the Prospector are. And I'm not really sure I have all that much evidence for this, other than being played with seems to be like a drug for these toys, even rookie toys like Buzz in the first film. After he accepts being a toy, he has an innate desire to be played with and stay with Andy, same with Woody and all the rest. And when they get abandoned or lost, they tend to hyper-focus like Lotso and Jessie, and that abandonment becomes a core integral memory. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to assume that when they get that first taste of the drug, the love of a child, they quickly hyper-focus on that, and they start to forget who they were before they had that first child. And honestly, I think this explanation seems to make the most thematic story sense. We see through Toy Story 1 to 3, for toys, the love of a child and that sense of belonging is what matters most. And hell, even in Toy Story 4, that's still the idea. They just become wandering toys to be played with by kids all over wherever they go. But I don't think that's the only explanation. But from here, I think these ones become a little bit more lore-based, I guess. As in, real-world explanations as to why he might not remember anything, as opposed to the more thematic-based reasoning given earlier. The first of these is simply that Buzz is a newer toy, an electronic toy with batteries and programming, and I suppose it isn't out of the realm of possibility that the very programming that helps him operate might have given him that pre-built backstory. Or perhaps he had more writing on his box. Writing that he would have seen in his production line or when he was on the shelf behind somebody else's box, and he just internalized it and it got embedded in his little toy brain. Maybe the old Western toys didn't have a storyline on the box. I don't think Stinky Pete's really did, just a few catchphrases, so I guess that's also a possibility. And then, on the other hand, I guess the Woody toy might have even been made before the show even came out, and then a cereal company capitalized on its popularity and partnered with the toy to make the show Woody's Roundup, and thus, the Woody toy that we see, Woody, may be an ultra-rare pre-show toy, and thus, he doesn't have a backstory and is simply a generic cowboy toy which a show was built around. But honestly, this one seems the least likely to me. I think I like the first idea, having a child's love wipe away their programming and lets them live their life bonded to that child. It feels like a more thematically correct choice for the Toy Story franchise and Pixar in general, although it's not like this question's ever going to be addressed. But anyway, that's the end of the video, and these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. Do you have an idea about this? Agree with me? Maybe you disagree with me? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.